We begin the talking points memo with this bishop in D.C. who tried to humiliate the President of the United States yesterday, Tuesday. This is a really fascinating story. So beginning in 1937, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was inaugurated on January 20th, the next day, a tradition began where the new administration would go to the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. for a prayer service. And ever since 1937, that has happened, except for COVID, when that was held virtually. Okay. The woman in charge of the National Cathedral is an Episcopal bishop named Marianne Edgar Budde. All right, there she is. She is a radical leftist, and there's no question about it. If you read her tweets, I mean, she's as left as they come. Well, that's okay. I mean, we have freedom of religion, we have freedom of speech. If the Episcopals want to put her in charge, I don't have a beef with that. There are a lot of left-wing Catholic priests. Some people believe the Pope is an ardent left-winger. I don't have a problem with those kinds of appointments. But in addition to being a bishop and a cleric, Ms. Budde is an activist. And she's an activist on two fronts, the gay front and the migrant front. And she doesn't make any, there's no, and you say separation of church and state, you say no taxation on the National Cathedral. Ms. Budde, or Bishop Budde, whatever she wants to be called, she oversteps that every hour on the hour. That's what she does. And nobody's going to do anything about it. Okay. Enter the Trump administration, the president, the first lady, the vice president, on and on and on and on. Okay, they go there for the prayer service. And here's what the bishop said. Roll it.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meatpacking plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals. They may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
And that's true. But that evades the central point. It does not seem to me that the Episcopal bishop wants the law obeyed. Am I misreading her? It seems to me that Bishop Budde wants anarchy. Is that merciful? I'll get into it a little bit more. But first, let me give you Donald Trump's response. Now, obviously, he's not going to be happy about this, but he should have known what he was walking into, because the Pope Francis, continually says the same thing. That we have to have compassion for the poor, the migrants, and you can't punish them. 100% of the time, that's what Pope Francis says, and I'm sure that's what Bishop Budde says. So Donald Trump should have known that's where he was walking in. I wouldn't have gone to that prayer service if I were the president. I would have said, look, he's going to try to denigrate me. It's not a hard analysis. So I would have gone somewhere else. Okay. Here's what the president replied on social media. She brought a church into the world of politics in a very ungracious way. She was nasty in tone, not compelling or smart. She failed to mention a large number of illegal migrants that come into the country and kill people. Okay, that's true. She didn't mention them. And that's where the mercy aspect comes in. So I'm a Catholic, you know that, and I understand my theology very well. I wrote Killing Jesus. Not a religious book, but I've had, let's see, 16 years of Catholic education. I get it. I know what it is. And the command in the New Testament, which Christians follow, is be merciful, okay, and help the poor. And that's what Bishop Buddy, Pope Francis, that's what they try to do. And that's the right thing to do. But it's not the exclusive thing to do. Because you are not being merciful, Bishop, and I'm directing my comments to you, madam, by failing to obey the law. You are putting people at risk. You are hurting people. The family of Laken Riley will never get over it. The family of Kate Steinle will never get over it. And I could name 5,000 other families at least because of anarchy, because the Biden administration would not obey federal law. And you cheered the Biden administration on, didn't you, madam? You cheered it on. That's irresponsible. That's not rendering to Caesar. You want the laws passed about migration in this country? Good. You petition Congress for a change. And I'll back you up. If I think a new law is good for this country, I will support you. But don't give me a one-way street here on the theology. Now, for Pope Francis, it's different because he's in the liberation theology movement. You have to understand where he comes from. He was almost killed by Galtieri and the fascists in Argentina. Literally killed. He knows that the oligarchy, to quote Bernie Sanders, in South America and Central America has persecuted poor people for hundreds of years. Pope knows that. And he knows that most migrants, as the bishop pointed out, are good people. They're just trying to improve their lives. But you don't throw out laws that protect the citizenry in the name of mercy. You pass better laws, more fair laws, and you don't try to humiliate the President of the United States. I can't cast a stone, but if I did that, I'd have to go to confession. I would. Because she knew she was going to do that, this Bishop Buddy. She knew she was going to humiliate him, and she did it anyway. Okay. I think that's a fair analysis. If you don't, I'd love to hear from you. Bill@BillO'Reilly.com, Bill@BillO'Reilly.com.